You may have followed the news. I made a video about it a few days ago about two transgender sprinters who one of them set a new state record, and they came in first and second place. One of the runners said, "We know the outcome before it starts." Well, she was right. They did win. Now, it's also true that I covered this in my video. We only hear about the times trans women, people born biologically male who transition, we only hear about the times they win. And it's an extremely complicated situation, but it does need to be talked about. It does. Because, listen, in 2016, we heard from Nicholas Matt, a professor who appeared on TV Ontario with Jordan Peterson, and said it's not correct that there is a such thing as biological sex. Well, that statement is absurd, absolutely absurd, and as far as I'm concerned, on par with flat Earth. Male and female absolutely exist. It's bimodal, not binary. I don't know who even came up with the idea that it was binary, because research back to 1993 shows that it's a bimodal spectrum. This is not new. The problem is, when you try and talk about the science of sex, you end up with gender zealots who say insane things, and it becomes impossible. So I've been arguing with some people on Facebook who say things like, people who believe that there is objective biological sex are just wrong and don't understand, blah, blah, blah. Male and female are subjective terms, and actually argued that someone who was born biologically male, but is a trans woman, was actually born biologically female. No. The bimodal spectrum is extremely, what's the word? Basically, it is apparent in about 98% of cases whether or not someone will be male or female. The reason it's called bimodal is because people who are born female could have way more testosterone than someone else who is born female, but they are still discernibly female 98.3% of the time. The deviation is typically said by, and this is, the stats I'm pulling up are from the intersex community, 1.7%. So it is a bimodal spectrum because there is an overlap. There are some people who are overtly male and visibly male, but have testosterone lower than some females, not intersex individuals. That's fair. I can understand that. The problem is people act like, you see these professors who say that the spectrum is a flat line. It is not a flat line. 98.3% of the time, someone is identifiably male or female with secondary sex characteristics. And then male and female puberty have dramatically different effects on the body. There are zealots who want to claim that the spectrum is a straight line, and that someone might, the straight line implies that the average person is in the middle between male and female. That's absolutely not true. It's two big spikes with a small overlap in the middle. But let's read the story, because what we're talking about here is one of the female high schooler who got 8th place. I believe she didn't. I don't know if she got 8th place or not. She did get 8th place. And that meant she was one place away from actually getting to compete in front of colleges. The reason why this is important, and it's mind-blowing to me, is that, listen, people cheat, okay? These two transgender individuals, I believe the trans community it must be guaranteed their civil rights and must be respected, is an issue of ableism. There are people who have certain conditions, and this is no way meant to be disrespectful. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. We must guarantee civil rights to all people. I believe in wheelchair ramps for people who are in wheelchairs. I believe for elevators for people who can't go upstairs. Man, allergies. And so the issue of trans is no different. Civil rights must be guaranteed, and these people and trans people must be protected from violence and hate crimes and all of that stuff. No problem. But we do have to recognize that these transgender sprinters are not on hormone replacement therapy. At least that's my understanding. In a story from last year, one of these sprinters won a race and was not on hormone therapy. Joanna Harper, who is a transgender runner and scientist, openly acknowledges this is not controversial. These are transgender individuals who are working in science, who are telling people, listen, someone who is born male and is not on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is going to have an advantage. It's only after completing androgen blockers and things like that they will be at a disadvantage compared to other biological males. Now, it is also true that there will still be some advantages, muscle memory, more muscle mass, bone density, even after HRT. The scientists are telling us this. The transgender scientists are telling us this. This is not an issue of left versus right or controversial. It is a group of fringe zealots and, in my opinion, some cheaters. Rachel McKinnon is a cyclist who recently won a women's world champion. And this was very controversial. I can respect the debate, but I want to make sure it's pointed out. Rachel McKinnon lost 11 of 13 races to one of her critics. So it's important to point out we don't get our perception skewed by the media, and we don't let the no biological sex zealots like Nicholas Matt confuse us when we actually have sane, scientific, individuals who are telling us, listen, this includes the Joanna Harper, a trans individual, saying, listen, this is a reality. Biological males have an advantage. So interestingly, I don't necessarily need to read through this because the statement from the woman who got 8th place, it's actually rather simple. She said, I'm very happy for these athletes and I fully support them for being true to themselves and having the courage to do what they believe in. But in athletics, it's an entirely different situation. It's scientifically proven that males are built to be physically stronger than females. It's unfair to put someone who is biologically a male who has not undergone anything in terms of hormone therapy against cisgender girls. Laura Ingram then interjected, and then she asks, what are your other teammates saying? She said, my teammates and my fellow competitors, we are happy for these athletes, of course, but we think it's unfair. And for us, it's upsetting when we work hard all season and put in a lot of effort, only to turn up at the state meets and get beat by someone who is biologically a male and lose state championships over this. You may be asking, why would someone pretend to be trans? You can get a scholarship. That means you're going to get a free ride, potentially, or at least some of your costs covered. People cheat. They take steroids. There is blood doping. People try to break the rules. Now, I want to address another issue. I don't know if I'm not going too long. Checkyourfact.org addresses an issue from Ilhan Omar. She said, Ilhan Omar says it's a myth that trans women have a direct competitive advantage in powerlifting. Democratic Rep. Ilhan Omar said in a letter to USA Powerlifting that it's a myth that trans women, individuals who were born as biological males, who now identify as women, have a direct competitive advantage in the sport. She said, I urge you to reconsider this discriminatory, unscientific policy and follow the example of the International Olympic Committee. The myth that trans women have a direct competitive advantage is not supported by medical science, and it continues to stoke fear and violence against one of the most at-risk committees in the world, Omar said. Here's the thing. These individuals who are sprinting identify as trans but aren't taking hormones. So in all respects, they are no different than any other biological male. They are trans women. Ilhan Omar doesn't seem to understand that there is nuance here. As I pointed out in my video before, someone like Jazz, if you're familiar with Jazz is born biologically male, but went on puberty blockers, my understanding, and now is taking female hormones, someone who did not go through male puberty. This means they will never have the same advantages as biological males who did go through male puberty. What does that mean? They are still trans women, and they likely do not have the same advantages. In fact, they may have some disadvantages due to the types of hormones they take and the treatments they're on. However, someone who is there's kind of like three different categories we can talk about here, and I'm not saying this is for all trans people because there definitely are different body types, but you have people who went through male puberty, who finished hormone replacement and now are at a disadvantage compared to biological males. You have biological males who now identify as trans but don't take hormones, so they're no different. And then you have individuals who never went through male puberty. We can't just say a blanket statement like Ilhan Omar said, and they actually talk about this over at checkyourfact.org. They say, her statement is false. There has not been a lot of scientific research on trans athletes in sports, but the view that trans women have a competitive advantage in powerlifting is not a myth or unscientific. Trans women who undergo hormone therapy lower their testosterone levels, which studies suggest decreases athletic performance. But trans women may still have more strength than biological women pound for pound, and muscle memory may also provide an advantage. Here's the problem. Trans scientists, so I mentioned Joanna Harper. This is a transgender scientist who is an athlete telling us they do have an advantage. They need to undergo hormone replacement therapy. Otherwise, it is unfair. But Ilhan Omar is also correct that the law backs her up. Now, Ilhan Omar is not citing any science. It's rather terrifying. We have a policy in play guaranteeing a law. You cannot discriminate against trans individuals. I think that's a good thing. However, the law doesn't reflect whether or not someone has undergone hormone therapy. It is not a requirement. Therefore, we can scientifically state the law supports essentially discrimination against biological females. It is discriminatory at the same time to tell a biological female that she must compete alongside a biological male who has not undergone hormone replacement therapy. And listen, I'm going to say it for the millionth time. I do not base my opinion on this off of some traditional or conservative belief. I've read into this, and I've only decided to hold that opinion after Joanna Harper, I'm going to cite Joanna Harper again, a transgender scientist, joined the chorus of scientists saying this is a fact. You know, she's certainly not the only person. If you're going to have respectable trans individuals and scientists in the scientific community say this is a fact, how do we stand behind law, and how do we stand behind someone like Ilhan Omar, who is claiming the science is unscientific? It's presenting a serious problem. Now, look, I don't know the answers. I don't. But this is a conversation that needs to be had. It is not fair to this young woman. I don't know if they have a photo of her. This young woman who is now missing out on the opportunity to compete in front of colleges to potentially get a sponsorship because biological males who have not undergone hormone therapy are racing alongside them. That discriminates against them as biological females. Listen, here's what I want. Here's what I want to do. I want to make sure we can truly have equality and justice for all. That means women, and that means transgender individuals. So I will absolutely respect civil rights law to protect them. But you also have to recognize when you put them up against each other, if you are allowing a biological male to race against a biological female and neither has undergone any hormone therapy, it is discrimination against the females, period. How do we protect them? I don't know, but we need to figure it out, plain and simple. So I'll leave it there. Comment below. Let me know what you think. And I've got one more story coming up in just a few minutes.